Afterglow Movie Net, Saturday, 10:30 p.m., W5FC. W5FC.
This is N5BB. Going to start Skynet in about 2 minutes. If you need to use a repeater, please do so before the net. This is N5BB, Skynet Net Control.
Mr. Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
This is N5BB. November 5, Bravo, Bravo. I'm starting Skynet. I'll be your net control for this session of the Dallas Amateur Radio Club, Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage your participation, your comments, and your suggestions for the net. Stations with priority emergency traffic may enter the net at any time using a pro sign break in your call sign. This is a directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from your net control in 5BB. Stations are reminded to identify at the end of your transmissions. This weekly net operates on 146.88 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using the W5FC-R, that's Whiskey 5, Foxtrot, Charlie-Romeo, station ID, or Echolink node 37247. Tonight's topics: astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio-video links are available online. Go to www.w5fc.org right now for the complete list. Remember to tell others about this popular net. And I am logged into Echolink so I can see any comments people make. All amateur radio operators are welcome. You do not need to be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. The net is 90 minutes long, structured into several parts, which I'm going to whiz through here. General announcements, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas, National Space Society, the discussion topic of the evening. And this evening, that topic will be the International Space Development Conference 2024, which was held a week ago in Los Angeles, and I'll be talking about that. Was up, space exploration and space history, the Constellation of the week, space launches of the week, recent astronomical discoveries, and visible satellite passages over the next couple of days. If we had extra time, we'll do astronomical questions and answers in say 73. All amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. So let's start with short time check-in. If you can't stay here too long, please come right now with your call sign, your name, and your location. Short time check-ins in 5BB Skynet. Nothing heard. Let's try one more time. Any short time check-ins to Skynet. Come now. This is N5BB Skynet. Well, nothing heard. We're going to defer Echolink until a little bit later. So first, we'd like to try the RF check-ins. So general RF check-ins. If you'd like to check in tonight's Skynet, please come now with your call sign, your name, and your location. This is N5BB Skynet, general check-ins.
November 5, Oscar Foxtrot, Hawaii, River. Kilo, Golf, 5, Uniform, Foxtrot, Romeo, Jacob, Farmers Branch. Kilo, Foxtrot 5, Zulu, Bravo, Lima, Bill, Farmers Branch.
Whiskey 5, Bacon, Lettuce, Tomato, W5, BLT, Bill, Garland.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas.
Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray, Tom, Louisville.
Let's pause there. I think there may have been some doubles. I recognize N5OF. Hello, Clay. KG5UFR. Hi, Jacob. KF5ZBL. Bill. W5BLT. Another Bill. NT5TM. Tony. And KE5ICX. Tom. Do we have other general check-ins via RF? This is N5BB. Skynet.
This is Whiskey 5, Golf, Uniform, Sierra, Gus, far, Northeast Dallas.
This is Whiskey Bravo number 4, Mike, Foxtrot, India, WB4MFI, Ted, Dallas, low power.
This is Alpha Golf 9 Sierra Golf, Antonio in Dallas, PG9SG.
November Victor 5 Foxtrot, Virginia in Fort Worth.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey Victor Lima, James in Carrollton.
Okay, let's pause there. By the way, the scratchiness is back in on this repeater again, unfortunately. So on everybody's signal, I hear a little bit of scratchiness. That's just the way it is. I recognize W5GUS, Gus. Hey, Gus, as of yesterday, GustoVision email was overloaded and out of quota. So please check your email, Gus. We have WB4MFI, Ted, AG9SQ, Antonio, NV5F, hello again, Virginia, and KG5WVL, howdy, James. Do we have other RF check-ins for Skynet? If so, please come now. Well, it may be a slow night. Let's look at Echolink. Let's see. Tony has already checked in. Tom has already checked in. Parker, W1ZRN. I see you are logged in on Echolink to the W5SC repeater. Would you like to check into Skynet, either on text or on Echolink voice? Parker, W1ZRN. If you'd like to check in, please do so now. I'll wait for you. Okay. So, Parker, I see you said yes, please. If you want to try voice, try it now. And where are you located? Okay, I had my volume down. No, it didn't hit the repeater. So, Tom, this is the standard problem where people can hear people on the Echolink, but it's not coming out through the repeater. I had to have the volume turned down or I'd get, echo here. So can somebody type in where Parker's located?
Bill, there was a double there, W5GUS.
Okay, I'm sorry. Is Parker in Mesquite? Okay, Mesquite. Very good, Parker. I see your text. I'm sorry I doubled with you there. It's kind of difficult sometimes on Echolink. So I recognize W1, ZRN, Parker in Mesquite. You are welcome to our little net here, or big net, such as it is. Okay, who else is on here? Kelly, K5KTX, would you like to check in?
This is Kilo 5, Kilo Tango X-ray, Kelly, in point.
That came through just fine, Kelly. I recognize K5KTX. J, KG5BZW, would you like to check in?
Kilo Golf 5 Bravo Zulu Whiskey J, near Weatherford.
We got you checked in, J, KG5BZW. Okay, do we have any other check-ins via any mode to Skynet? If so, please come now with your call sign and your name and your location.
November 8, Whiskey Romeo. N8WWR, Romy, Grapevine.
And I recognize N8WWR. Romy, do we have anybody else? Okay, nothing heard. Let's move forward with the net. Do we have any general announcements? This can be about amateur radio things, astronomy, space, something that you'd like to tell people about of general interest to hams. Could be something occurring here locally. If so, please come now with your call sign only. General announcements. This is Skynet.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike.
NT5TM. Tony, the net is yours.
Thank you, Bill. This Tuesday, June 4th, will mark one of the most important Dallas Amateur Radio Club meetings of the year. It's our Field Day meeting. It's time to get organized, get volunteers for all the many jobs we have to do, and leaders for all the fun we're going to have. We're going to be putting the final touches on that, and we would love to have your participation. The board meeting, which is all boring business, is at 6 p.m. The general meeting with the exciting Field Day program is at 7 p.m. Both happen on the third floor community room of the Dallas Medical Center, northeast corner of Webb Chapel and LBJ. Just park for free, go in, take the elevator up to the third floor. We're easy to find because we're very noisy. That's 6 p.m. and 7 p.m., and more details are at w5fc.org. Of course, it's getting late, and while Skynet is wonderful, many net enthusiasts might be worried that they're about to run out of nets. Oh, no fear. We have the Afterglow movie discussion tonight at 10:30, plus or minus 5 minutes. Tonight's movie is called Moon Crash from 2022. I'm not quite sure how, I don't know, I haven't seen it yet. I'm not quite sure how it's going to work out, but you can watch it and tell us. We will be very happy to have your opinion tonight, 10:30, plus or minus 5 minutes. With all this excitement, please don't forget that we have a whole collection of nets coming up in the next couple days. If you don't have enough nets tonight, we have more nets for you. We have a meeting on the air tomorrow at 7, a Racy's training net for Racy's appointees tomorrow at 8, and a ham fixins net on Monday at 7 p.m. Have you taken advantage of the recent holiday weekend to try something new in the kitchen? Share your recipe, cooking tip, or just interesting kitchen story this Monday right here on Ham Fixins Net at 7 p.m. I've got to get in the kitchen tomorrow. We've just recovered from a power outage, and I want to cook something. NT5TM, back to net.
Very good, Tony. Does anybody have any questions about Tony's items? Or do we have any additional news items of any type? So this is N5BB, Skynet. Okay, I've got a couple. First one from space, and this may come up later in the net. I ran out of time and hadn't read through the whole script. But Boeing was supposed to launch their CST Starliner with 2 astronauts going to the International Space Station, and it was supposed to be the first launch with humans in it. Unfortunately, they had a ground computer problem. There's 3 computers that vote, and one of them didn't start up on time. And with only 2, they can't start. So with only about 3 minutes remaining on the clock, they had to scrub the mission. They don't want to try it again tomorrow because it's not enough time. But there's some other windows available on the 5th and 6th of June. If they don't meet those, there's more problems because they're trying to go to the International Space Station, so it's a very carefully timed launch. That program has taken forever to get going. Okay, one last try. Do we have any additional news items of any type? Oh, I've got one more. My one more is there is a fox hunt tomorrow in Irving. Irving Amateur Radio Club is holding a fox hunt tomorrow in Irving. Sunday from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. It'll be on 146.58 simplex. That's right, 146.58. Talk-in or general discussion will be on the Irving 146.72 repeater. Fox Hut in central Irving, probably within a couple of miles of Highway 183. And Irving isn't that wide east to west. So it'll be somewhere kind of in central Irving. Don't know where. That would be telling. I don't know. It'll be tomorrow, 1 to 3 p.m. in Irving. Hopefully the weather won't be horrible. Who can tell? Okay. Does anybody have any questions about those items or any additional news items or any late check-ins? This is N5BB Skynet. Okay, announcements about nets. AMSAT has a net that meets on this repeater, 146.88, on every Tuesday evening. It does not meet this coming Tuesday because that's a club night, but on all other Tuesday evenings it meets. And the meeting is at 8 p.m. on this repeater. 110.9 PL tone. That's the AMSAT. It's about all kinds of satellite things. AMSAT or Inter Satellite Group, but any other satellite-related issues. That's Dallas AMSAT Net, Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m., except this coming Tuesday. And then on Wednesday evening at 9 p.m., there's a similar net on the Arlington 147.14 megahertz repeater, with a PL tone of 110.9 and a positive offset. So AMSAT Net West, Wednesday evenings at 9 p.m. There's many nets on this repeater every week. On Monday evening, there's always something going on at 7 p.m. The first and third weeks of the month, it's involving cooking, the ham fixings net. The second week of the month, emergency communications. The fourth week of the month, it's the geek net, geeky things, science or other geeky things. The fifth week of the month, which is only certain months have 5 weeks, it's a surprise net. If we told you what it was, it wouldn't be a surprise. So that's on Monday evenings. Tuesday evenings, I've mentioned the AMSAT net on this repeater at 8 p.m. Friday evening at 8 p.m., there's the CERT City Simulation net. This is about emergency radio communications via CERT-trained people. On Saturday evenings, we have TechNet from 7 to 8 p.m., usually, about all kinds of technical things. And this net, Skynet, from 9 p.m. until 10:30 p.m., which is about astronomy and human things in space. Then we have the Afterglow movie net after Skynet ends, around 10:30 p.m. On the first and third Sundays of the month, we have the Dallas Amateur Radio Club meeting on the air. So tomorrow, there will be a Dallas Amateur Radio Club meeting on the air tomorrow evening. This is at 7 p.m. And then on the first and third Sundays of the month at 8 p.m., there is a Races net. So if you're not a Races member, just listen. Don't transmit on that net. And then one more net. Every night of the week at 6:30 p.m., there's a National Traffic System training net, which meets at 6:30 p.m. on this repeater. The exception is on the club meeting night this coming Tuesday. Instead, it will meet on the Irving 146.72 megahertz repeater at 6:30. In addition, at 9:30 p.m. every night of the week, there's a late traffic net on the Irving 146.72 repeater. Anybody's welcome to check in any of these nets, but on the traffic net and the Races net, please listen carefully and only check in if you have the right credentials or you know what you're doing. Let's put it that way. At the right time in the net. Okay, that's all I got. Before we move ahead, Tom, can you tell us about the Afterglow movie Crash? K5ICX and 5BB.
Oh, thank you, Bill. I lived for this. Here's my highly accurate synopsis for Moon Crash tonight at 10:30. The days since an accident sign was again at 0. It was the third time this week Steve's mining company had managed to kill or maim one of its own workers. What's worse, he also had another problem. While this accident took place on the moon, these brainiacs also managed to launch a piece of the moon directly towards Earth. Talk about luck. And in fact, I couldn't get anything else about this movie until I actually watched it. And believe me, you only want to watch it once. Join us for this improbable disaster flick, Moon Crash, tonight at 10:30 p.m. Boy, it's going to be great, maybe. Back to you, Bill. KE5ICX.
Well, thank you, Tom, for your highly accurate synopsis of Moon Crash. Okay, do we have any additional check-ins to Skynet? Additional check-ins. I saw a station appear on Echolink, but he's gone already. Any additional check-ins to Skynet, please come now. This is N5BB.
Kilo 5, Mike Charlie Delta, Cody in Dallas.
Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima, Brenda in Dallas.
Okay, I recognize Cody, K5MCD, and Brenda, WB5OZL. We hear you, Brenda. You're a little bit scratchy, but everybody is this evening. Do we have any other check-ins? Nothing heard. Okay, next, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas. Chaz is going to be away this week and next week. So, Tom, would you read us what's going on with Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas? This is in 5BB.
Yeah, I can do that, Bill. The National Space Society of North... Whoops, that's you. Hold on to the phone. Let me find it here. Let's see. The TAS monthly meetings, let's see, are held on the fourth Friday of every month, except in December, at the University of Texas at Dallas campus in Richardson. Music meeting begins at 7:30 p.m., and you can get additional information by going to texasastro.org for additional info on the meeting. The meeting includes programs that include members and guest speakers, the current constellation of the month, items for sale, T-shirts, books, and observing fees. Now, let me see here. I do have something here. The next TAS regular meeting will be held in person and on Zoom Friday, June 28th at 7:30 p.m. The speakers will be Ian Lauer and Catherine Machin, an astrophotographer and a painter. So if you want additional information, go to www.texasastro.org for all of that information. Back to you, Bill, KE5ITX.
Very good, Tom. Thank you. Now, unfortunately, everybody's going to have to listen to me for a while because I've got two things back-to-back coming up. First, National Space Society. I happen to be an officer of the National Space Society North Texas chapter. We won the Chapter of the Year Award yet again at the International Space Development Conference last week. More about that conference coming up in a few minutes. So we're a very active chapter. That's the reason we won the Chapter of the Year Award of all the chapters in the world, most of which are in the U.S. We have events we do at libraries and Moon Day and schools, science museums through the year. We also have a monthly meeting. We meet on the second Sunday of every month at 3:30 p.m. in Irving at Spring Creek Barbecue at the southwest corner of Beltline and Highway 183. This is across the highway from Irving Mall. We also simulcast that over WebEx. Our next meeting is going to be a week from tomorrow on, let me get a calendar up here, on Sunday, June the 9th at 3:30 p.m. The presentation starts at 4. Our presentation this month is going to be a recap of the International Space Development Conference, which I'm getting ready to talk about in just a few minutes. So that's all the local events we have. We had several events the last couple of months, but we have no events coming up in the next few weeks for National Space Society. If you're interested in National Space Society, our website is ntx.nss.org. That's NTX, like North Texas, November Tango X-ray, .NSS, like National Space Society, .org. And we also have a Facebook page and some other social media things, so you can go and find out things. You can also contact me. I'm N5BB, November 5 Bravo Bravo, at ARRL.net. But because there's been some problems with ARL services recently, it might be better to contact me directly, space@byram.net. That's SPACE at Byram. That's BYROM.net. SPACE at Bravo, Yankee, Romeo, Oscar, Mike, .net. And you can ask any questions about National Space Society. I'd be glad to discuss those with you. Okay, that's the end of National Space Society. Does anybody have any questions or comments or check-ins? This is N5BB, and I see Royce over there on Echolink. Royce, KE5AXY. Would you like a check-in? If so, you can come in on voice on Echolink or on text. Just tell us where you're located. Okay, I'm not sure who that was, but it wasn't Echolink. Will that station try one more time? You're far too weak. We got no audio. Nothing heard. Royce, I'll assume you're there, and I'll check you into the net here. Okay. Next, we have discussion topic of the evening. This is N5BB, that control for Skynet. As I mentioned, I happen to be the membership director, or an officer, the membership director for the National Space Society North Texas chapter. Every year, the National Space Society national group, it's actually international, has a big event called the International Space Development Conference. Last year it was held in Frisco, a suburb on the north side of Dallas. 2 years ago it was held in Alexandria, Virginia, a suburb of Washington, D.C. This year, a week ago, it was held in Los Angeles, right across the street, literally, from the LAX airport. And I visited there along with a number of other members from the local chapter. I forgot to count them. There were something like 8, if I remember correctly. And so we were there to receive the Chapter of the Year Award, among other things, and got to see all kinds of things going on. So you might wonder, what is the International Space Development Conference? Did anything interesting go on there that you might want to know about? Well, that's why I'm here to tell you. The host for the event this year was somebody that hasn't been associated with our group, Melissa Navia. She's an actor on Star Trek's Strange New Worlds. She just finished recording their latest episode. And so she is there. She has a very distinctive haircut. She is the pilot. She pilots the starship. So it was very interesting. And she was participated, besides hosting, being up there, she was a very good host, very good speaker. And besides hosting the conference, she was on several panels talking about science fiction and movies. And it was very neat. One interesting thing that occurred was some presentations by Vast Space. That's their name, V-A-S-T, Space. Vast Space is working on some space stations, some private space stations. The background for this is the International Space Station has been up there for nearly 25 years, roughly the year 2000. And it's old. And there's parts of it that are hard to maintain. And the current plan is for the International Space, it's already past its lifetime, The current plan is for it to come down somewhere probably between 2030 and 2032. That's only 6 to 8 years from now. So there's a lot of thought about how to get other space stations up to do the same work. By the way, the current plan, which is not finalized, for taking down the International Space Station is to kind of take it apart in smaller pieces. It was put together from smaller pieces, but kind of start disassembling it, and then in some way, rockets to push those pieces down into lower orbits that will naturally decay and burn up. But they got to be careful. They want to make sure that something big doesn't come down, in the middle of downtown Dallas, or in the middle of a telescope, or in the middle of somebody's house. They want it to come down in, the South Pacific or the South Indian Ocean where there's nobody around. So, the private space groups are working on putting up space stations. Axiom Aerospace already has a module there on the International Space Station, and there's some plans with that, working with NASA. But there's some other private companies working on completely separate space stations. One of them is Vast Space. So they were right now building a space station. It's a prototype. I say a prototype. It's a demonstrator model, you might say. And they plan to launch it late next year, late in 2025. If they're successful, it will be the first private space station orbiting the Earth. This is N5BB, Skynet. The first one is kind of an elongated module, but they will spin it to generate a little bit of artificial gravity and see how that works. They have a partnership with SpaceX because the SpaceX Dragon capsule has a pretty good air cleaning system in it. Scrubber to scrub out, carbon dioxide, give you oxygen. And so what they're going to do is have no life support things like that on their space station, because it'll be a temporary space station. Instead, a Dragon X will take some astronauts up to their space station, dock with it, and then the Dragon capsule will supply all of the life support systems for the module, power and air. They will send up with the original space station, when they send it up on, I think, a Falcon Heavy, I believe, they will send up extra cartridges for the Falcon 9 air support system. So they'll be to swap it out and keep the air filtration system working. So they'll be up there for, I think, maybe a couple of weeks at a time, and they'll make several missions to this temporary space station. This is N5BB. Then there's a much larger space station, which is also being planned to be, they're getting ready to start construction by Vast Aerospace. It'll be a larger ring, it'll actually be kind of a stick. Imagine a stick, and there's two of them, and they counter-rotate. One's going clockwise, the other one's going counterclockwise with an axle in between. And so they're going to rotate fast enough so at the end of the stick, you're going to have simulated Earth gravity. Partially back in the stick, you're going to have Mars gravity. Further back, you're going to have Moon gravity. Further back, you're going to have even lower gravity. Right in the center, you'll have weightlessness. This will be an amazing way to do a lot of space research, because you can simulate what's going on in those different places for long periods of time. It'll be up there. So there'll be rockets, small thrusters, to get it going and maintain that motion. The reason for two counter-rotating sticks is for stability. It's much easier to make it stable with the two momentum vectors canceling each other out. So that's Vast Space. There's another space station being worked on called Starlab. This is N5BB, Skynet. The Starlab space station is a joint venture between Voyager Exploration Systems and Airbus. Yep, the company that makes the airplanes. So that's Starlab space station. I'm going to talk about a number of other things that occurred at the international scene between venture capital firms that want to get something up into space but don't know where to put them, which space station. So Stellar Access is a company that's kind of a coordinator, a paid coordinator to figure out how to get your things into space. There's a number of companies that are talked about venture capital for space. There's a pretty big venture capital market now for space projects. Then, you'll all be interested to hear about this next thing. This is N5BB Skynet. The Robert A. Heinlein Memorial Award, which is awarded pretty much every year to somebody for popularization of space, human actions in space, was given to none other than William Shatner. That's right, Captain Kirk on the original Star Trek. He's now in his early 90s. He gave a very entertaining talk about his ride to space when he was 90 years old, a couple years ago in October 2021, on a Blue Origin rocket in West Texas. So that was fun. He talked about a few other things also. He's a very entertaining talker, very spry and active in his early 90s. Very fun. There was discussions at several forums about the role of artificial intelligence in space exploration, development, and settlement. Pros and cons to artificial intelligence and all of its good things and bad things. There was a forum on, is science fiction a preview of our future in space? That's right, science fiction in space. There were several people on the forum, including Isaac Arthur, who has a very popular YouTube channel on science and futurism. Isaac Arthur is the current National Space Society president. And also Larry Niven, the classic science fiction author that's now 86 years old. He was there on that forum, and he sat next to me during lunch. So he was there along with some other authors. There was a lunch speech by former NASA astronaut Susan Kilray titled An Unlikely Astronaut. She's written a children's book with that same name. It was very unlikely for somebody like her to be an astronaut, but she made it happen. There was a very entertaining speech also at a meal by former NASA astronaut Jose Hernandez. A movie was made about a documentary movie about the fact that he got to go to space. His parents were both migrant farm workers in California, but he was born in the U.S. when they were in the U.S., and he went through all kinds of things before becoming an astronaut. He applied 11 times and was rejected, and on the 12th try, he became an astronaut. There was a lunch chat with Rob Manning, the chief engineer emeritus of JPL, about exploring the solar system in the age of artificial intelligence. People are still the key. This is N5BB Skynet. There was a dinner chat on the stage with Jordan Noon. He's the co-founder of Embedded Ventures, and he's the former chief technology officer of Relativity Space. So there's a number of companies working on putting things in space and funding them and working on subsystems and engines and modules. There's just a lot of companies working on things. There were some discussions in various places during the conference by Dr. Pascal Lee. He is the director of the Houghton Mars Project at NASA Ames Research Center in California. He's also one of the founders of the Mars Society. He gave a talk about the Mars analog on Devon Island. It's a desert island in northern Canada. It's an island up off the northern coast of Canada. And a new volcano he discovered on Mars, where he would like the missions to land near that. And various prospects for missions to the moon and to Mars. where we should land on the moon and Mars. He is very knowledgeable. He's a scientist. This is N5BB, Skynet. Various discussions at times by the famous, very popular science fiction author Daniel Suarez on various topics. He's very entertaining and has written some very entertaining books. He was signing his books, but unfortunately they were all sold by the time I went to go to buy one. There was a panel discussion about science fiction movies and video shows by persons in the industry. This included a person that's made a jillion movies as an audio mixer. He's the post-production mixer for all the audio stuff for a lot of the movies you've heard. There were people that build the sets for the movies, that build the movie sets, and another guy that does all of the makeup. And so there were actors there, and there were people that are involved in doing things on movie sets. This is N5BB Skynet. There was a lunch speech and some other discussion at other times by Dr. Alan Stern. He's the Associate Vice President of Southwest Research Institute. He made a suborbital research trip on Virgin Galactic. That's the thing that launches like from an airplane. And he had a talk about that. Southwest Research Institute is contracting with Virgin Galactic to do some science experiments on their airplane and maybe on another one. And his path as he grew up to become a scientist, and he was involved in a lot of missions, including our most recent missions out to Pluto. There was a dinner speech by Dr. Claire Leon. You haven't heard of her? She's the director of Space Systems Integration for the Space Systems Command, part of the U.S. Space Force. She gave a very good speech. It was one of the most entertaining speeches about what U.S. Space Force is doing to get things going in space. And then the last thing I'd like to mention is there was a presentation of the NSS Space Pioneer Award to Brian McManus. He runs the Real Engineering show on YouTube. It's very popular, Real Engineering. And he was at various things talking about AI and various other space-related things. Okay, that's all I've got. Next, do we have any additional check-ins? This is Skynet, N5BB, net control. Okie dokie, nobody else is on Echolink. So Tom, since Shaz is out, will you read for us the information about what's up? KE5ICX, this is N5BB.
Yeah, thank you, Bill. This is KE5ICX. I mentioned this earlier, but I'll go ahead and do it again. The next TAS club meeting will be on Friday, June 28th, and the meeting will be held at 7:30 p.m. in person at the University of Texas at Dallas. It will be held on Zoom. Featured speaker will be Ian Lauer and Catherine Monken, astrophotographer and painter. Saturday night public observing sessions also continue. Skynet was picked on the Saturday night, so there will be an opportunity for live reports from the TAS public observing session. On the first Saturday of the month, stargazing is held in Fairview. On the second, stargazing at Frisco. Third, stargazing in Cedarville. Fourth is Rockwell. And unfortunately, tonight there is no observing session scheduled. Oh, and there are no public observing sessions on the fifth Saturday of the month. Let's see here. Do we have any ham radio operator stargazing who would like to make a report? Please come now with your call. Okay, hearing none, remember to go to texasastro.org for up-to-date information and details about meetings and public observing sessions. So normally this is done by Chaz, who is out. He is at the public observing site this week. West Texas, I believe. But he says we call this segment of Skynet What's Up, about what's going on in astronomically over the next couple of weeks. So he begins with, on May 30th, and it was the third quarter phase of the moon, so the current phase of the moon is a waning crescent. On June 2nd, the moon is at perigee, which is the point of the moon's orbit that is closest to the Earth at a distance of 358,102 kilometers. June 6th is the next new moon. June 14th is the first quarter moon. Also on June 14th, the moon is at apogee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that's furthest from the Earth at a distance of 404,077 kilometers. On June 1st, in the early morning sky, Neptune will be Neptune, and the moon will be in conjunction. There is, by the way, if you're watching the video portion of this, there is a map showing, or a projection showing exactly how that distance will be measured. On June 2nd, the moon and Mars will be in conjunction in the morning sky. On June 3rd, there is what Chaz calls a grand alignment. At around 5:45 a.m. and in a very strong twilight, you can find all of the solar system planets except for Venus. Looking very low in the east and northeastern sky, you can find Jupiter with Mercury just to the upper right. Then further to the right, higher, Uranus can be located much further to the right. Higher in the sky is the moon. To the right of the moon and a little higher is Mars. Then a jump to the right and higher Neptune can be seen. Also Neptune and to the right is Saturn. Alignments of this happen fairly often. You can start looking a day or two earlier and try a day or two later, and you'll still see most of the alignments. On June 4th, the moon and Uranus will be in conjunction in the morning sky. On June 5th, the moon, Jupiter, Mercury, and Pleiades will be in conjunction in very strong twilight in the early morning sky. And on the days of June 7th and 8th is the peak of the daytime periods with up to 300 meteors per hour. Now, how do you observe meteors during the daytime? Believe it or not, you can use radio signals, similar to observing lightning strikes using the crackling sound of an AM radio. You can use HF radio that bounces signals from a distant station, and the signal bounces off the ionosphere, is disrupted by a meteor burning up in the upper atmosphere. There's detailed information about how to observe meteors and meteor showers. You can visit the International Meteor Association, which is IMO.net, or the American Meteorological Society, Meteor Society, gotta get it right, amsmeteors.org. On June 8th, the conjunction of the moon and the star polyps in the west-northwestern evening sky. On the very next evening, on June 9th, the moon and the star cluster M44, also known as the Beehive Cluster, which we talked about last week, I believe, are in conjunction with the west, in the west-northwest. The moon and the bright star Regulus are in conjunction on June 11th. Then on the next evening of June 12th, the moon and the minor planet Juno are in conjunction in the evening sky. This is KE5ICX. So Chaz always asks this question at the end of this segment. Do any of you out there in Radio Land have any questions or need any fills on any information, or you have a general astronomy question? Now with your call, if you have a question. Now I'm not the professional astronomer, so any answers I give you may or may not be true. But if you'd like to ask a question, by all means, now is your opportunity. Okay, hearing none, so as the moon wanes, because of these words in this segment of Skynet, I'll try and do it in my best Chaz voice as possible. So to say, keep well, pray for our world. It's the only one where humans live. Until next time, actually I'll be doing another segment of Skynet in just a few minutes. Keep looking up so you know what's up. Back to you, Bill. This is KE5ICX.
Well, thank you, Tom. This is N5BB, Net Control for Skynet. Do we have any additional check-ins or questions or comments? If so, come now.
W5GUS, recheck.
W5GUS, go ahead, Gus.
Thank you, Bill. W5GUS here. A very interesting meeting you had out there. And I was curious, would there be any way to get a video of any of the speakers from that LA meeting, W5GUS?
That's an excellent question. They were actually selling some DVDs out there, but I forgot to go check them out. I will look and see and let you know. I should know the answer to that, but I don't. But they were videotaping a lot of things, and so I think they're available somehow, and I'll figure that out and get back with you, okay? As long as I can email you. Is Gus Division working yet?
Working on it. Should be up in about 15 minutes. Thank you, Bill. W5GUS.
Okay, great. Very good. Yeah, some of us have trouble if we don't keep our email cleared out. The thing gets too full and won't take any more messages. These darn complex technical things, they're good on one hand and they're a pain on the other. I'll work on that, Gus. Okay, any other comments or check-ins before we continue with Skynet? This is in next is space exploration and space history. But do we have anything before that? Any check-ins? Okay, Kelly, K5KTX. I believe you're up for space exploration and space history. Take it away, Kelly. This is N5BB.
Hey, Bill. This is K5KTX. Good evening, everyone. Well, on May 23rd, the Europa Clipper spacecraft arrived in a United States Air Force C-17 Globemaster III cargo plane at Kennedy's Launch and Landing Facility in Florida. Last Tuesday, the team transported the Europa Clipper to the Payload Hazardous Servicing Facility, or PHSF. The spacecraft, which will collect data to help scientists determine if Jupiter's icy moon Europa can support life, traveled more than 2,500 miles from NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Southern California, where it was assembled. The team will perform a number of activities to prepare it for launch, including attaching the high-gain antenna, affixing solar arrays to power the spacecraft, and loading propellants that will help guide the spacecraft to its destination. On board are 9 science instruments to gather detailed measurements, while Europa Clipper performs approximately 50 close flybys of the Jovian moon. Research suggests an ocean twice the volume of all the Earth's ocean exists under Europa's icy crust. The Europa Clipper spacecraft will launch on a SpaceX Falcon Heavy rocket from NASA's Kennedy Launch Complex 39A. The launch period opens Thursday, October the 10th. In space history for this past week, starting with May 28, 2002, NASA announced that the Mars Odyssey spacecraft had detected large quantities of water ice below the surface of Mars. Odyssey carried a gamma-ray spectrometer instrument suite that was able to detect water based on measuring the intensity of gamma rays and neutrons that are affected by the hydrogen in water. The instruments had the ability to observe this neutron intensity within a depth of 1 meter below the surface, indicating that water ice is present at least that far down. May 29th, back in 1999, Space Shuttle Discovery, STS-96, became the first spacecraft to dock with the International Space Station, or the ISS. Discovery, crewed by astronauts Kent Rominger, Rick Husband, Ellen Ochoa, Tammy Jernigan, Dan Barry, Julie Payette of the Canadian Space Agency, and Valery Tokarev of the Russian Space Agency Roscosmos, spent over 5 days and 18 hours docked with the ISS. The crew transferred 3,567 pounds of supplies to the ISS, including 84 gallons of water. They also performed housekeeping tasks for the benefit of future crews that would live on the ISS. Filters and smoke detectors. There would be 3 more shuttle missions, STS-101, 106, and 90, and the arrival of the Zvezda service module before the space station would be ready to host a long-term crew. Expedition 1 docked to the ISS on November 2nd, 2000. May 30th, back in 1971, the Mariner 9 probe launched from Cape Canaveral, Florida. Following Mariner 8's failed launch 22 days earlier, Mariner 9 became the first mission to successfully orbit Mars. 3 previous Mariner missions had flown by Mars and sent back a limited distance. Mariner 9 arrived in the sky above Mars during a massive planet-wide dust storm that prevented quality images from being taken. After a month, the storm subsided, and Mariner 9 began mapping the surface. Its findings were groundbreaking. The cartography revealed ancient riverbeds, massive volcanoes, and a 3,000-mile-long canyon. Mars's moons, Phobos and Deimos, were also photographed from close range for the first time. After one bountiful year in orbit, contact was lost with Mariner 9. It remains in a decaying orbit around Mars. May 31st, 2015, the Cassini spacecraft made its final flyby of Saturn's non-spherical moon Hyperion, which is the largest of Saturn's irregular potato-shaped moons. It's particularly unique because of its low density and sponge-like appearance. After leaving Hyperion, Cassini visited other moons before beginning its grand finale, a series of dramatic dives between Saturn and its rings. June the 1st, back in 2011, Space Shuttle Endeavour landed for the final time at 2:34 a.m. Eastern Time at NASA's Kennedy Space Center. On board was the crew of mission STS-134, returning after completing a 14-day mission to deliver the Alpha Magnetic Spectrometer, AMS, as well as spare parts to the International Space Station. Over the course of 25 missions, Endeavour spent a total of 299 days in space, orbited Earth 4,671 times, and traveled over 122.8 million miles. Although Endeavour is retired, it continues to inspire. Today, you can visit the orbiter up close at the California Science Center in Los Angeles. Finally, tonight, we have some astronaut birthdays from this past week. Starting with May 26, 1951, the late Sally Ride. She was on Space Shuttle missions STS-7 and 41G. May 28, 1944, Paul Scully Power. He was on Space Shuttle mission STS-41T. May 30th, 1958, Michael Lopez Alegria. He was, his call sign was KE5GTK. And he was part of Space Shuttle missions STS-73, 92, 113. He was part of Expedition 14, and in April of 2022, he was part of the SpaceX Axiom mission AX-1, and he has the most EVA time of all American astronauts. Finally, June the 1st, 1954, Jeffrey Ashby, who was born in Dallas, by the way, he was on Space Shuttle missions STS-93, 100, and 112. And that's all I've got this evening, Bill. This is K5KTX. Back to you.
Very fine, Kelly. Are there any questions, comments, or check-ins to Skynet? This is N5BB, net control. Nothing heard. Okay, Tom, K5ICX. It is time for Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week, complete with Chaz's jokes. Do you think you can handle it? K5ICX and 5BB. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Bill. Yeah, I've been working and practicing the jokes so that I can get through them. So, yeah, that's probably the most difficult part. That and some of the names of the stars, but I think the jokes are the worst. Okay, here we go. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week is named in honor of Silent T. Carolyn, KC50ZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week, almost from its beginning in 2012 until May of 2019, with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Since there are about 52 easily visible constellations seen in Texas throughout the year, out of the 88 total constellations, so Miss Carolyn's constellation covered the entire sky as seen over North Texas in about a year. In her honor, we've continued the tradition of a constellation per week and named this segment after her. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week this week is Libra, the scale. Libra is a zodiacal constellation and is the only member of the zodiac which depicts an inanimate object. The ancient Greeks did not recognize Libra, but instead had stars representing the claws of the adjacent Scorpius. Other cultures, including the ancient Romans, Egyptians, Hebrews, and Indians, recognized Libra as a balance. The concept of a balanced scale in the sky originates from the equal lengths of day and night at the equinoxes. 2,000 years ago, the September equinox was in what is now Libra, so the stars in that part of the sky came to be associated with balanced scales. To the precession of the equinoxes, when the sun is at the September equinox today. It is now in Virgo. All right, so we have the jokes of the week. Okay, here we go. How did the psychic achieve a work-life balance? Come on, you can figure this one out. By finding a happy medium. Bill, N5BB, kept trying to balance mints on his foot. Turns out he was playing tic-tac-toe. Why did the tiger eat the tightrope walker? He wanted a well-balanced diet. What do teenagers call a well-balanced meal? A packet of ramen noodles in each hand. Okay, here's a math problem. I have 6 goldfish named Major, Minor, Flat 9, Bebop, Altered, and Blues. The only way I can tell them apart is by their scales. And here's a good one, maybe. A wife saw her husband sucking in his stomach while standing on a scale and said, "That won't help." And he said, "Yes, it does. I can read the numbers now." Okay, let's continue. Zubin Janubi, I can never pronounce that right. I know every astronomer has learned, and amateur and professional knows how to pronounce this. I'm not one of them. It's also known as Alpha Libris, and is the brightest star in Libra at a magnitude 2.0. It lies very close to the ecliptic. It is Arabic for Southern Cross. The names of these stars date back to the time when the stars that are currently in Libra were part of Scorpius. Zubin Janubi is a double star and is very easy to split or separate. It can be easily split in the common 6x30 finder scope. Despite the wide separation, the two stars share the same proper motion and are believed to be a true physical pair. Zubin Janubi is known as Beta. Oh, this is a different star, a little different. Mali. It says Zubin Janubi. Is also known as Beta Libra, shines at a magnitude of 2.59. The name means northern quark. Using an 8-inch telescope at low magnification is nicely framed in a triangle of familiar stars, all three of which are similar in brightness. The star also looks white. Next is NGC 5897, which is a globular cluster, also known as the ghost globular cluster because of how faint it is. In their book, The Night Sky Observer's Guide, I have a copy of that, George Keppel and Glenn Sanner note that in an 8 to 10-inch scope, this globular cluster has a diffuse low-surface brightness halo with a poorly concentrated center. A few dozen stars may be glimpsed with an averted vision. With a 16 to 18-inch scope, they note that the cluster resolves well. This globular cluster is very faint. It needs more aperture than an 8-inch SCT. In an 8-inch telescope can barely start to resolve some of the brighter star clusters. Averted vision will help, otherwise it's a faint, fuzzy glow. Next is PK 342 plus 27, which is a planetary nebula. As to the nebula itself, initially at low power, it looks like a fainter member of a double star. Increasing magnification shows it to be an extended object, albeit a small one. At 126 power in an 8-inch scope, that's a 60 to 18-inch telescope at 300 power, the 7-inch arc-second diameter disk of the nebula is visible, surrounding a star-like center. Next is NGC 5878, which is a spiral galaxy at magnitude 12.5. In an 8-inch scope, this galaxy is right at the limit of visibility. Averted vision is a must. It appears as an elongated faint glow, just barely visible. The long axis is aligned along a north-south line. Next is our 254 NGC 5917, and it is a challenge object. According to the book, the ARP Atlas of Peculiar Galaxies, NGC 5917, has a faint companion galaxy known as MCG 1393, and a tenuous bridge, presumably of stars, dust, and gas, which connects them. Close examination of photos taken with large observatory telescopes shows that the interiors of both galaxies appear to have been affected by each other. Since the system is totally isolated in intergalactic space, the bridge and the disturbed appearance of the disk suggests a galactic sideswipe. An 8-inch or a 16-inch scope cannot visually see the object. This is an object for an astrophotographer to explore. There are more Astronomical League observing program objects in the constellation of Libra the Scales. I've just given you a sampling of some of them. The Astronomical League has at last count 74 different observing programs, most of which have around 100 objects. If you observe just 10 different objects in an observing program each month, then you can earn an observing certificate in about a year. And that is Miss Carolyn's constellation of the week, Libra the Scales. And Chaz wants to thank his friends Dave Hutchinson, Dennis Harwell for the research and work on deep sky objects they used, borrowed and stole for every Skynet. He says he also uses the website constellationguide.com for additional information. Next week we'll have a look at a twofer. We have the Shepherd and Corona Borealis, the Northern Crown. And that's it, Bill. I think you're going to send it back to me in a minute anyway, but there you have it. That's it for Miss Carolyn's constellation of the week. This is KE5ICX.
Well, thank you, Tom. After a little research, I just discovered there's multiple YouTube pages and websites telling you how you should pronounce Jubanel Janubi. That's right, Jubanel Janubi. It takes a lot of websites. It's originally an Arabic word. Anyway, very good. Thank you very much. I don't see anybody new on Echolink. In fact, stations are peeling off. We must be boring people. It is getting kind of late. Do we have anybody else that would like to check in to Skynet? This is N5BB, net control.
This is Kilo Echo 5, Kilo Delta Oscar.
Say your call one more time and your name and your location.
My name is George. I'm in the colony. My call sign is KE5KDO. That's Kilo Echo 5, Kilo Delta Oscar.
Very good. KE5KDO. George in the colony. Welcome, George. Thank you for checking into our little net about anything in space. Stars, planets, spacecraft, you name it. Skynet is where we discuss it. We'll be going on for another 10 minutes or so, and then we'll be discussing a movie. Okay, do we have any other check-ins to Skynet? Okay, let's see. Tom, I'm going to do what I normally do. I'm going to skip by space launches of the week and go to Brenda. Brenda, how about some recent astronomical discoveries? WB50ZL, this is in 5BB. Oh no, are you still there, Brenda? WB50ZL, this is in 5BB.
Can you hear me okay?
You're very weak, but give it a try.
Yes, I've had some radio problems tonight, so I wasn't sure if this was going to work. This article is Martian meteorites deliver a trove of information on red planet structure. Mars has a distinct structure in its mantle and crust with discernible reservoirs, and this is known thanks to meteorites. Scientists at Scripps Institute of Oceanography at UC San Diego and colleagues have analyzed on Earth. Meteorites that formed roughly 1.3 billion years ago and then ejected from Mars have been collected by scientists from sites in Antarctica and Africa in recent decades. Scripps Oceanography geologist James Day and his colleagues report May 31 in the journal Science Advances on analyses of the chemical compositions of these samples from the red planet. These results are important for understanding not only how Mars formed and evolved, but also providing precise data that can inform recent NASA missions like InSight, Perseverance, and the Mars return, said study lead Day. Martian meteorites are the only physical materials we have available from Mars, said Day. They enable us to make precise and accurate measurements and then quantify processes that occurred within Mars and close to the Martian surface. They provide direct information on Mars composition that can ground truth mission science, like the ongoing Perseverance rover operations taking place there. The team assembled its account of Mars's formation using meteorite samples that all came from the same volcano known as Macrite in classic night. Some 11 million years ago, a large impact on Mars sheared away parts of the planet and sent the rocks hurling into space. Some of these landed on Earth in the form of meteorites, with the first of these being discovered in 1815 in Cassigny, France, and then in 1905 in Nakba, Egypt. Since then, more such meteorites have been discovered in locations including Mauritania and Antarctica. Scientists are able to identify Mars as their place of origin because these meteorites are relatively young, still come from a recently active planet. Distinct compositions of the abundant element oxygen compared to Earth and retain the composition of Mars's atmosphere
measured on the surface by the team landers in the 70s. The team analyzed the two keystone knackite and casignite meteorite types. Knackite is so basaltic, similar to lavas erupting in Iceland and Hawaii today, but are rich in a mineral called clinopyroxene. Casignite are almost exclusively made of the mineral olivine. On Earth, basalts are the main component of their planet's crust, especially under the ocean, while olivines are abundant in its mantle. The same is true on Mars. The team shows that rocks are related to each other through a process known as fractional crystallization within the volcano in which they were formed. Using the composition of these rocks, the then molten knacklites incorporated portions of crust close to the surface that also interacted with the atmosphere. By determining that knacklites and casignites are in the same volcanic system and that they interacted with Martian crust was altered by atmospheric interaction, we can identify a new rock type on Mars today with the existing collection of Martian meteorites, all of which are volcanic in origin. We're better understand the internal structure of Mars. The team was able to do this because of the distinctive chemical characteristics of knacklites and casignites, as well as the characteristic compositions of other Martian meteorites. These reveal an atmospherically altered upper crust to Mars, a complex deeper crust in the mantle where plumes from deep within Mars have penetrated to the base of the crust, while the interior of Mars is formed early in its evolution have also melted to produce these type of volcanoes. What's remarkable is that Mars's volcanism has incredible similarities but also differences today. On the one hand, knacklites and casignites formed in similar ways to recent volcanism in places like Oahu and Hawaii. There, newly formed volcanoes press down on the mantle-generated tectonic forces that produce further volcanism. On the other hand, the reservoirs in Mars are extremely ancient, separating from one another shortly after the red planet formed. On Earth, plate tectonics has helped to remix reservoirs back together over time. In this sense, Mars provides an important link between what the early Earth may have looked like from how it looks today. This is from ScienceDaily.com, and this is WB5OZL. We're returning to the next.
Very good, Brenda. You were just strong enough to make it through. I could understand the whole thing, but man, you were right on the threshold. You were getting ready to drop out, but you didn't really. Thank you very much. Okay, do we have any questions, comments, or late check-ins? This is N5BB, Skynet. Then Tom, K5ICX, can you give us some space launches for the week? I'm especially interested in the Starship launching from South Texas. So give us a few of those, Tom. K5ICX, N5BB, space launches for the week.
Indeed, you are correct. This was just announced, I believe, yesterday. There will be a launch. Proposed launch. We're still waiting for launch clearance for the Starship Flight 4. This will be from Starbase in Boca Chica Beach in Texas. SpaceX will conduct its fourth flight test of the fully integrated Starship rocket. The combination of the ship upper stage and a super heavy booster. About 7 minutes after liftoff, the SHB will complete its landing burn and splash down in the Gulf of Mexico. The ship upper stage will continue on until it performs a landing flip a little more than an hour into the flight with a landing in the Indian Ocean shortly thereafter. We also have coming up a Soyuz Condor SK-A2 flight from Vostochny Cosmodrome. the Russian Soyuz rocket will launch the Condor Experimental SAR spacecraft SKA-2 satellite to sun-synchronous orbit at 510-kilometer altitude and inclination 97.4 degrees. The mission, with a roughly 5-year lifespan, is being launched on behalf of NPO. Let's see, I'll give you a couple more. We have on June 24th, Long March 2C that'll launch from Jiaxing Satellite Launch Center in People's Republic of China. The Long March 2C rocket will launch a space-based multi-band variable objects monitor, or SBOM, spacecraft. The satellite is a dual Franco-Chinese, dedicated to the study of most distant explosions and gamma-ray bursts. Then we have a Falcon Heavy launch, goes U, out of Launch Complex 39A at Kennedy. The SpaceX Falcon Heavy will launch the fourth and final satellite in the next generation series of geostationary weather satellites for NASA and NOAA. GOES U will orbit at 22,300 miles above the equator to monitor weather conditions across the United States. The satellite will be renamed GOES 19 once it reaches its operational orbit. And I think I'll cut it there, Bill. Back to you, KE5ICX.
That's perfect, Tom. This is N5BB, Skynet. By the way, the 2025 International Space Development Conference will be in Orlando, Florida. It's been moved to be a month later. It'll be June the 19th to the 22nd. June the 19th to 22nd, the International Space Development Conference in Orlando, Florida. So, by the way, I didn't say it out loud, but as you could probably tell by my voice, I was very excited by the International Space Development Conference at Los Angeles last week. So a reminder about what's coming up here immediately. Tomorrow at 1 p.m. in Irving, we have the Irving Fox Hunt on 146.58.
I'm completely operational. All my circuits are functioning perfectly.
Then on Tuesday night at 6 o'clock, we have the board meeting of Dallas Amateur Radio Club. At 7 o'clock, the general club meeting. And this is at the normal hospital location there on the 3rd floor of Dallas Medical Center. And then on Wednesday, we have at 7 a.m. Central Time the launch, hopefully, of the Starship from South Texas. So, last call. Any last comments or check-ins before we go over to Skynet? To Afterglow. This is N5BB. This is the 73 round last call for Skynet.
This is George, KE5KDO. I have a question. When are you on the air so I can look to see you next time?
Are you saying when is Skynet, this net, on the air?
Yes, I just happened to tune you in by accident, and I'm an astronomer, scientist, and all that kind of stuff, and I could contribute, and I would like to know how I can do that and when you're going to be on the air again.
We will be on the air again with this net next Saturday night. It's every week, Saturday evening at 9 p.m. Central Time. The net always starts at 9 p.m. and ends at 10:30 p.m. It's every single Saturday night. And then you'll be able to see a lot of us at the Moon Day at the Frontiers of Flight Museum by Love Field. That will be on Saturday, July the 20th. Saturday, July the 20th, Moon Day. Many of us will be there during the day for that event also. So, does that answer your question there, George?
Yes, it does. So, that's good.
We're very pleased to have you check in, especially if you have a direct interest professionally or amateur-wise in astronomy or space. And by the way, you can find out more about the nets on this repeater by going to W5FC.org. Whiskey5FriedChicken.org. That's the Dallas Amateur Radio Club website, and you can look around there and find information about all the nets that are on this repeater. So with that, let me scroll down By the way, thank you very much for asking, George. We really appreciate it, and we really hope that you'll come back here next week. Next, tonight we had, with George, we had 20 check-ins. Thank you very much, George, KE5, KDO. We really appreciate it. And we hope you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations for this and other nets run by the Dallas Amateur Radio Club. You got an interest in being in net control? Contact a net control or send an email to nets, that's N-E-T-S, at w5fc.org. You can follow topics and discussions about this net astronomy on Facebook and X, as well as our audio and video streams. To figure out all kinds of resources, go to w5fc.org, and you can learn about that too. Until next Saturday night at 9 p.m. Central Time. This is N5BB, Bill. I'll be closing in that at 10:33 p.m. local time. We're returning the repeater to normal amateur use for a couple of minutes, and then, Tom, tell us about when Afterglow will start. This is N5BB. Skynet is clear.
Yeah, thank you, Bill. Great, Nat. This is KE5ICX. You got 5 minutes. 5 minutes, go powder your nose, pop some popcorn, come back, and we'll be discussing this fine classic film from 2022 called Moon Crash. Oh boy, come back in 5. This is KE5ICX.
While we're waiting, Gus, W5GUS, are you still hanging around, Gus? Very good. I thought I'd just tell you that I've been doing a little bit of research. So far, I can't find any references to the DVD, but I know they were selling some, and I think they were recordings, I'm assuming, of this ISDC. I'll check around some more, and it may take me a few days to get answers. But if I can find one, I want to order one anyway. So I'll see what I can come up with, and I'll get back with you. Thanks for the interest. We'll talk to you later, and don't forget, there's a National Space Society North Texas meeting in Irving a week from tomorrow. N5BB clear.
Okay, time's up. It is time to come back to the radio. Sit down with your beverage of choice, maybe some popcorn. I've got some on the way, by the way, popcorn that is. And we get to discuss this week's fine film. This week's fine film is described here at, of only place I could find a review was from military.com. Yes, that fun website about all things military. So here you go. This is what they have to say. Director Roman Emmerich's Moonfall looks like one of the great Save the Planet sci-fi films come along in a while, but it won't be around until February 4th, whenever this thing came out, 2022, I guess. And it says, instead, you can stream the fine film Moon Crash on February 1. Well, it's still there somehow or another over on Netflix, amongst other free sites. Moon Crash is the latest blockbuster knockoff from the shameless copycats at the Asylum, a studio that got its start grinding out straight-to-video movies and had titles that were confusingly similar to recent action-packed hits. Take 2016 Sinister Squad, released around the same time as the DC Comics movie Suicide Squad. Apparently there are plenty of people who are easily confused and will rent one when they think they are getting the other. Moon Crash was made under the title Meteoroid, but the marketing department seems to have stepped up and slapped an appropriate, confusing title on the film just before the release. Check out the trailer, and I've seen it. It's something. Jeremy London gained fame back in 1990s on television shows like I Fly Away and Party of Five. In Moon Crash, he's playing an officer who didn't really have the time or inclination to visit a tailor who could give him a proper uniform fitting. Anyway, private enterprise has been given drilling rights on the moon, and they screw up, breaking up off a huge chunk that becomes a planet-killing meteoroid hurtling towards Earth. Can astronauts with an electromagnetic pulse, or EMP, take out the giant rock before it destroys the planet? This is the kind of scenario we should all hope they're doing over at Space Force. Moon Crash, Moonfall, and the recent Netflix movie Don't Look Up are nowhere near the first Hollywood movies to contemplate a world-killing space disaster. Anyone knows what happened to the dinosaurs when the giant meteor hit the Earth all those millennia ago? The most amazing thing about Moon Crash is that Asylum pretty much released the exact same movie just more than a year ago, Meteor Moon. Meteor Moon does offer a twist with a Ford Mustang in space, something craftily borrowed from the Fast and Furious movie. Of course, there's nothing stopping anyone from renting Meteor Moon today and watching Moon Crash on February 1 as a warm-up to Moonfall on February 4th. That should be enough space defense strategy and falling space rock debris to satisfy a movie fan. And that was reviewed by James Barber. Now, you can't find Wiki on this because Wiki isn't interested in talking about this film. So, that's okay. So there you have it. That's kind of a synopsis review. There's other ones with, from a scale of 1 to 10, it gets a 1. That's not number 1. That's like the worst scale we can get without getting a number. But that's okay. So, I'm going to go ahead and check-in. Tonight's movie, Moon Crash, from 2022. I'm going to take your call sign, your name, and did you see tonight's movie? Please start now.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike. Tony, in Dallas. I watched most of it, alas.
Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Q, Sean in Fort Worth. Yes, I've seen this movie.
Whiskey 5, bacon, lettuce, tomato, W5BLT, Bill. And, yes, saw this fine film.
picked up. NT5TM, Tony in Dallas. Yes, he saw most of the film. KB9SOK, Sean, Fort Worth. He bravely saw the whole thing. W5BLT, Bill, also saw the whole thing. Anyone else want to join us? Please come with your call, your name. Did you see tonight's movie, Moon Crash?
Kilo 0 Foxtrot Echo Romeo, Chris, East Dallas.
November Victor 5, Foxtrot, Virginia in Fort Worth. Yes, I did see this movie.
All right, I've got 2 over here and 1 over chat. I've got K0FER. Chris in East Dallas, he's bravely seen the film. Welcome, Chris. ND5F, Virginia, Fort Worth. Yep, she saw the film. And Brenda, she's having some radio problems. She says to check her in, WB50ZL, over in Dallas. She'll, presumably, if she can't do audio, she will type in her wonderful comments over here in the chat box. Anyone else want to join us, please come with your call. Okay, that's enough to get started. I will ask for additional check-ins when we get finished with these. So, first round is always about the script, the story, the fine experience you had watching this film. We will start at the top. Tony is always bravely number 1. I'm not sure why. He does the I am Spartacus thing very well. So, Spartacus, Tony, NT5TM, what did you think about the plot for our fine film, Moon Crash of 2022?
Well, I look back on it, and, I'm pretty sure we did Meteor from 1979. Excuse me. At least it had Sean Connery in it, and the plot, although slow and clunky, was pretty easy to understand. This movie did not have Sean Connery in it. Oh, big problem right there. And I don't know, incomprehensible is the nicest thing I could say about the plot. Everything else is worse. Whoever wrote this sure knew a lot of words, like NEO, okay, near-Earth object, but not everything in the universe is called that. And they knew how to write and spell meteoroid, apparently. That was, it's good that you can spell that word. You're going to graduate from 6th grade. So they knew all these words, but then they had a difficult task. They had to arrange them in order. And the order had to make some kind of sense. That's really difficult. They made me think of Weird Al Yankovic's song. This song is just 6 words long, was what I've got my mind set on you. You need to find all these words, and you need to arrange them, and it takes all this time to have a hit. So it's just easier to, we'll just keep singing these 6 words over again. And that's really what I felt the screenplay was like. They had a few words, EMP, LIDAR, NEO, Fallout, and they just kept saying them over and over again in slightly different combinations. Very few things they did made any sense. They're breathing from a gas. Some of the characters in Earth are breathing from a gas mask sometimes. Others are having some sort of problems on the moon that just keep escalating from one to the other, and they never do anything intelligent to solve them. But they have a lot of words. So, yeah, I found the plot to be bad. Entirely bad. It had some words in it, and they kept arranging them in different ways, and they never made any sense at any particular time. NT5TM.
That pretty much describes it, Tony. Yeah, I would agree. Okay. Next up is Sean, KB9SOK. Sean, your thoughts about the very deliberate plot of the moon crash on 2022 from KE5ICX? That.
This is KB9 SOK. Yeah, I think Tony nailed it on the head. It was just bad. This movie kind of reminded me a little bit of the plot from Jetstream. Not that the actual exact plot, but just being completely ridiculous. As Tony mentioned, they were just throwing out some words, and you know, we could literally spend an entire hour and a half of this going through scene by scene and talk about how poor the science was in this film and just how ridiculous it was. Everything from, you know, obviously not being weightless in space to just the crazy plots that they had with, you know, why collapsing a structure and create an EMP that would, you know, magnetize and magically move the meteor out away from the planet. So yeah, it was just completely ridiculous. You know, our special ray gun built out of satellite. Oh, it was bad. You know, that, if they, maybe they should have approached this like last week's movie. Maybe, you know, had they decided to make this like an homage to, you know, the crazy disaster destruction movies that we've had over the years, and actually kind of added some humor into it, and then when you have a crazy plot on top of it, you know, that can actually add to the comedy. But that's not what they were doing here, and maybe that's what they should have done. But clearly, they took no time at all, you know, to even look at the science side of this. And then, you know, there's even just little things that they could have corrected, even on the non-science stuff. You know, for instance, you know, we had the girl that got her leg crushed, and, you know, they just left her on her desk, but yet, at the end, she walked 5 miles by herself without a gas mask and made it to them. You know, that made no sense. But had they actually sat down and thought it through, they could have simply had her show up in a car. You know, maybe somebody found her there at the facility and drove her over there. You know, I mean, there's just little things they could have done to fix this, you know, and make it more comprehensible. But, yeah, and then really they had about, I think, 30 minutes of idea of the story they wanted to do. And then we just had the long, drug-out scene in the desert where they're just crawling and trying to breathe and then gasping and pretending to have long pauses in between each word that they were going to say, and it was just so awkward and got so annoying. I so badly wanted to put this thing at 1.5 speed just because it was just dragging, but I wanted to stay with the group last night, and because you guys are way more entertaining than this movie, talking about the space babes. But but this was just, oh man, it was a tough one to watch. But you pretty much got to start over to fix it, I think. Not unless they wanted to go for the comedy or something along those lines. That's all I got to say about that. There's plenty to say about characters when we get to that. So yeah, back to net. This is KB9. That's okay.
So, Sean, you loved it. By the way, Robert, AI5QE, I see you out there. I'm going to put you at the bottom of the list. This is Bill, W5BLT. Bill, this is right down your alley. I bet you love this film. Tell us why, from KE5ICX.
Well, Tom, you're right. I love this movie. It was, I think, a direct ripoff of all the disaster movies I've seen in the past. And, you know, like Meteor, I think there was a comic movie, Armageddon, you know, movies like that. And I'm always good for, you know, rip-offs and, you know, disaster movies and just getting thrown right into action from the start, you know, explosions and drilling accidents and people being, you know, stupid and causing meteors to fall, you know, to the earth, and you know, people wanting to do things, plots that we've seen before, and I just, so yeah, I just love this movie thoroughly. There's two scenes that just really made me laugh. One, because I was looking up reviews online, being blind, and one was about the lady astronaut astronaut that had her hair sticking out of the helmet, and then did the payphone in the desert. So, yeah, I just love these corny movies, and it made me really long for these 50s and 60s sci-fi movies after watching this one. I did try to look up Moonfall, because I wanted to watch that, but not free yet. So, anyway, yeah, this one was a tough one. I just felt like I got thrown right into action, and then it just started dragging on and on. What a movie! It was kind of a train wreck. Like they took plots from other movies and tried to force everything in this one, and it just didn't work. W5 BLT.
Thank you, Bill. By the way, check your audio. It's way down low from what it normally is, so maybe there's something you could do there. You're holding the repeater fine. It's just that your audio is very low. Okay, I have to admit, I saw it was like this half-second glimpse, and I thought I'd seen her ponytail or something out from behind the helmet, and I was right. I thought maybe I just imagined that, but you saw it. It was a very quick scene. And, of course, it ended up in the film because it's pivotal to the plot. Next up is Chris, K0FER. Chris, your thoughts on the plot to our fine film, Moon Crash from 2022. Thank you, Chris. You were mostly noise. You started coming out of the noise towards the end of your transmission there. You may want to improve position or increase power, you know, that jazz, on the next round. I think you can transmit okay. When you first checked in, you were readable on this particular round. You were just kind of in the noise. So whatever you did when you first checked in, do it again, and I think we'll be able to get you and hear the entire thing. Okay, next up is Virginia, ND5F. Now, I know Virginia loves quality films, and I'm sure this is a quality film in her eyes, or something that she'll always remember. But why talk about it in the third person when we can ask her direct? So, ND5F, your thoughts on Moon Crash from 2022.
Good evening, everyone. I can't believe I'm still awake. Man. Well, everybody said basically the same thing. This movie, to me, was definitely an attempt at ripping off the trend towards, if not basing a movie somewhere in science, at least trying to talk about a lot of science to make it seem somehow plausible, or give it some urgency or sense of reality as to what this crisis might be like if it happened on Earth, you know, now or in the near future. It almost seemed like it was put together by people who maybe knew, I don't know, maybe they took a couple physics classes, I don't know. I felt like every other scene, their solution would just fall to pieces, and so every other scene there was a reversal of some kind, and so they could throw up a new solution, you know, that was super sciencey and technobabbly, and so it was impossible to keep up with because there were probably about 30 reversals in this movie, and it made the plot very frenetic, and it made it very difficult to do things that could seem realistic. Like one of my favorite scenes is where the gal gets her leg pinned and they get her out from under the thing that's fallen on her, and then they bring her into this basement or whatever and put her, you know, they're just like, well, we're going to have to go, so we're going to leave you here with your broken, mangled leg. We're just going to sit you on this counter. You know, what if she needed to go to the bathroom or sleep or something? We're going to leave you. I'd be all like, put me somewhere comfortable. Bring me some food. Put me near, you know, some kind of comfort station of some kind. So it was that, the problem was it was so frenetic that there's no way it could even hope to be believable. And yeah, the thing about the you know, 1 minute they're like dying from all the toxic stuff in the air that apparently meteorites bring with them, or when they explode or whatever, and they're, you know, she almost dies, and somehow he wills her to start breathing again, you know, her boyfriend, and she somehow survives, and then at the end somehow the air is fine and they're kissing, and, you know, and then the girl who was left on the counter, you know, just comes hobbling up, you know, and she couldn't stand without assistance before, and now she's like, you know, like Tony said, she walked 5 miles, you know. So it was just, you know, and then they tried to put the romance and the relationship between the brothers in there, and it was just changing so quickly. So many stereotypes. Like, we joked about how, you know, hot chicks in tank tops, you know, who were smart and had long, pretty hair. You know, I guess that all comes from, I don't know, maybe aliens or something. I don't know. Tough, smart chicks in tank tops with tattoos. So there was just, you couldn't really keep up with it unless, even if you had a degree in physics, you know, there's no way you could keep up with what they were. Because like I said, every couple scenes, their plan was foiled by some variable that they didn't anticipate, and somehow everybody, I guess it was a happy ending. I'm sure lots of people died, but we didn't hear about them. And Morse code, of course, saved the world, which is hilarious because they always, whenever they have Morse code save the world, they do all this science stuff, you know, to try to impress you with all their science and space and physics, and they don't do that stuff really great, but you think with all that they could at least get something simple like Morse code right, but they can't. It's bad. I'm kind of, 20 years ago I thought it was awesome when Morse code saved the world, but now it saves the world in like every movie, and as much as I love it, you know, come on. So, anyway, but I guess that's a sign of being like super smart and competent, is like not only are you a world-class astronomer or physicist, but you also, of course, know Morse code. So anyway, in fact, when I tell people I'm know Morse code and then I show them that I know it, it probably impresses them more than anything else that I can do or that I know. It's really funny. Anyway, so yeah, it's just action and science and technobabble, and I think there is kind of a genre of like nerdy, science-y stuff being cool, but when it's moving at you so fast that you can't possibly learn anything from it or follow it, no matter how smart you are, it's just a bunch of like, by the end of it, you're completely desensitized, and it's just a bunch of white noise, and you don't really care, and you don't shed a tear when people die or when they survive, and so anyway, I'm glad it was generally a happy ending for everyone, especially the general wearing the World War II surplus general hat and medals left over from that era too. Anyway, that's it for me. NV5F.
Darn, you stole my thunder on that one. Yeah, the uniform was something else. Okay, I took some notes on your notes, so I'll be back with my comments about your comments in a little bit. Next up is Brenda. Hopefully she can get through. WB50ZL. Brenda, can you come in over here? I didn't see any typing over in the same chat box, but can you communicate and tell us what you thought about Moon Crash from 2022?
This is WB50ZL. Can you read me?
Yeah, you have noise, but you're no worse off than you were about an hour ago, so please continue.
Okay, we're going to give this a shot. I really have to concur with everybody. In the beginning, I'm straining hard to try and understand this movie and learn something. I don't have a technical degree. I figured everybody understood it but me, and I was really paying attention to try and learn something and trying hard to figure it out. And at some point, I realized it was a fake. None of this meant anything, and it's just like technobabble. They just made stuff up, and so it's kind of disappointing. But the whole thing didn't make any sense, and wasn't, in my opinion, very well done. Technologically, it was pretty bad, and the whole, we've seen this theme so many times, the meteorite, or meteor, or meteoroid, or something, is headed right for us, and oh my goodness, what are we going to do? And we've just seen this play out so many times. All right, back to net, WB50ZL.
All right, thank you, Brenda. And yeah, we've seen this a bazillion times before. Okay, let me go ahead and open it up and ask if anyone else would like to join us this evening. Tonight's movie is Moon Crash, put out by Asylum Films, and that's where the producer and director should be, is in Asylum. The movie is called Moon Crash from 2022. If you'd like to join us, please come with your call sign, your name. Did you see the film? If you're out there, you don't even have to have seen the film. We can talk about meteor films all you want, or short subjects like meteorite, whatever you want. Please come with your call, your name, and did you see the film?
Kilo Echo 8 India Kilo Yankee. I've just been listening in. I've been meaning to join these nets more recently, but I did not watch the movie, although I did thumb through it a bit during
then you cut out. You want to try again? Give me your call and your name, please. And welcome. We're glad you're here, by the way. This is your first check-in.
Sure, this is Kilo Echo 8 India Kilo Yankee. I moved elsewhere. I'm using a handheld. How am I sounding now? Over.
Excellent. Now, whatever you did, wherever you moved, don't move. Don't move from that spot ever. Your signal is very good now. Please continue. By the way, what's your name?
Once again, Kilo Echo 8 India Kilo Yankee. My name is Aaron. I'm just using my little Yaesu handheld FT60. But yeah, I've been meaning to join the nets for a while, and I was like, I finally tuned in. And so I have not watched the movie, although I was thumbing through it as you guys were discussing it. It seems like we got rave reviews today, being a bit facetious. Anyway, yeah, hopefully I can join for next week and actually contribute, but I enjoyed listening in, and again, hopefully I can get a bit more involved with Ham around here. So that's it on my end. Over.
All right, well, very good, Aaron, and I got your call as Kilo Echo 8 India Kilo Yankee, and we're glad you're here, and hopefully you come back next week, and we're glad you checked in. I think there's others out there that are listening that haven't checked in for whatever reasons, and please do so and watch the movie, and you can trash them or hold them up as great, wonderful moments of cinema and theatre. I use the English version, theatre, because it's an elevated state, of course. So, all right, we got you checked in. And if you got anything you want to say about any of these films, I mean, there's been a zillion million Meteor films, including one called Meteor. So, by all means, make comments. Okay, I'll go ahead and make my comments about this film. Somebody made a comment that why couldn't they make it a comedy? You know, Roger Corman, who just recently passed away, did that. He did Sharknado and all the shark films and many, many films through the years. He was the big producer for the American International stuff, which is essentially what Asylum is trying to mimic, is the American International films that would come out, not ready for prime time. He filmed something you could put on a double feature for a matinee or late night or something like that. Today's version of that is Asylum Films, putting things direct to streaming in this case rather than to videotape or whatever. So, and he had no problems, no qualms about making something so totally crazy that it's funny, it's fun. Many of his films were that way. And Asylum could do the same thing, but they seem to miss the boat and just keep producing these horribly bad films. Moon Crash is the worst. Go ahead and do your technobabble, but make it so unbelievably stupid that people will sit there and go, I can't believe I just heard that. And do it with a giggle rather than a sigh. And, you know, what is it, the face palm thing? Pretty bad. Let's see. Things about the film. Way too much technobabble that made no sense. They need a science advisor on the film, or maybe Roger Corman. Maybe they can resurrect him and bring him back in a new life or something, or somebody like Roger Corman to help him along to work through it. If you're going to do a serious film, or attempt to do a serious film, at least try and be serious about the science. Science fiction has the word science in it. So try and do that. Now, I know there are other films out there that have had science advisors, and they're not always listened to because of dramatic license, and it messes up the plot going forward, and pesky science can screw up things pretty incredibly, especially when you're already in production and suddenly they're revealed to something that can't be true or can't be done, and they can't fix it with a script or special effects. Then you got a problem. Let's see. Oh, my questions indeed have to do with what the heck is the observatory all about? Why are you going to an observatory to run a space mission? I think they were visiting, but then they kept running everything from there. I don't understand. Also, once they had to leave. Oh, and by the way, the moon seemed to have a real problem with this one sole observatory. It kept throwing all of its rock pieces, meteorites towards the Earth, right there. We never really got to see, because they had no budget, all of the disasters that were inflicted upon the world, except through the special effects. We never saw people outside of just, we didn't even get stock footage of people and running in panic or, I mean, that's a classic. You always do that. And there's any number of Japanese Godzilla movies where you could take people and, you know, they're from Arizona, they look Japanese. They're from London, they look Japanese. They're from India, they look Japanese. And then from Japan, they look like they're from Japan. I mean, come on, just take your stock footage, use the same ones over and over again. Nobody cares, because at this point, nobody's even paying attention to the film. I just don't get that. Why? The next thing I've got a beef with is when you use your space laser and you shoot it down into a hole, how is it that there's an explosion? Is there a volcano? What was it? And if there was something that blew that big piece out of the moon, how does it know to head for Earth? I mean, we know that there's gravitational forces in play, but at the same time, those gravitational forces are only so strong. I mean, we know with the missions to the moon that it starts out, you have to get a pretty high velocity. Now, this is coming from the moon and going towards Earth, so you don't quite need the velocity that you might otherwise. The mass is still the same. There's a lot of mass, and you got to eject it, and then somehow or another, it's headed for Earth, and it only needs 12 hours to get there. I mean, we got a spacecraft that go into orbit, and that, and it didn't. What was it? I think Voyager, when it left Earth, it was the fastest thing at the time. It took 12 hours to get past the moon if it was going in that direction, which it wasn't. But at any rate, I just found the science somewhat lacking. No, there was no science. This doesn't even qualify as a science fiction film. Fiction, maybe. Bad fiction, yes. Let me see. What other notes have I got? Oh, yes. And what was the deal? Okay, we got a big observatory. So we take that little telescope with them, and they're pointing it at something in the sky in daylight. They're looking at it, and on they go. I just never understood that one. And by the way, why do you run a space agency out of an observatory? But I kind of touched on that earlier. Okay, well, with that, we're going to go to the top of the list, and next is acting and characterization. Good luck with this one. If anybody can remember even who these characters were, that'll be a miracle. So, Tony, NT5TM. Tony, your comment, please. Go ahead. Acting.
Okay, well, boy, I have a lot of people's comments I want to comment on. You know, something that was remarkable about this movie, this is kind of, should have been a round one, but I didn't think to say it. It was just so devoid of comic relief. I remember being told to use only genuine interosseter parts, even when you're making a serious movie. I mean, especially when you're making a serious movie. People make jokes. Not here. A good hit on the time it takes to get from the Earth to the Moon in free fall, because I thought of that too, but forgot to say it. Virginia, I really liked you hit hard on the schlubby general stereotype. We've seen, Tom mentioned that too, I think. We've seen more than one movie like that. What's up with your uniform? It doesn't fit. Shave. What are those medals from anyway? A movie that, it's above average. It's not perfect, but that I rather like about the Cuban Missile Crisis, called 13 Days, nailed that in the opposite way. If you're Curtis LeMay, the head of the Strategic Air Command, and you're going to the White House to brief President Kennedy, your uniform fits perfectly. If a fleck of dandruff should dare to land on one of the stars on your shoulder, it will be annihilated with a nuclear weapon. People who get to be generals just never look like that. It doesn't happen. They keep doing that in movies, and they don't seem to have watched any actual, movies with generals in them. I don't know. I love that Virginia hit on the Morse code that doesn't make any sense at all. Chris K0FER, the one part of his transmission I can understand, he made fun of the voltmeters that were somehow magical AV transmitters. You, my fellow net participants, are the actual good participants, good characters in this movie, because I couldn't tell the characters apart. Apparently, in the recent past, as Virginia mentioned, women all dress the same. They were a little too much makeup, they are a little sweaty, they wear tank tops, and sort of baggy breakdancing pants. I missed that year where every single woman on Earth dressed like that, but apparently they all did at some point, right around the time the meteors were hitting. I missed that year. All the men seemed to wear about the same shirt, except for the schlubby general. I just could not tell these people apart. I mean, that's the harshest thing I can say about these characters. Except worse. One of the things about a B movie like this is where was the eye candy? None of these men ever took their shirt off. None of the women ever needed to go for a swim. I mean, don't meteor showers cause hot weather or something? There was no comic relief and there was no eye candy, and I couldn't tell the characters apart. So a colossal failure as a B movie. I need a little technical support, and yes, it's Afterglow related. I know that people get together on Facebook or something and talk about watching the movie, but I actually don't know how to join in this. Is there like a link I need to have, or a special calendar thing or something? I sure could have used some comic relief in my life last night. That power outage was really getting on my nerves. So I'd like to stop missing this. I'd like to start joining in on Friday. I just don't know how. NT5TM.
Well, thank you, Tony. And yes, you can go to, you have to go to Facebook and look, or chat, or go to chat and be a part of Afterglow Gang. 2 words, Afterglow and Gang. I think there's a link set on the page itself. Let me look, hold on here. So, Afterglow movie, and then at the top under featured, can't imagine watching this week's movie without something. Can't imagine watching this week's Afterglow movie by yourself? Of course you can. Misery loves company, and we'll provide that misery and company. Join us every Friday at 8 p.m. Central Time to watch the latest Afterglow masterpiece film. Go to Afterglow Gang, click on the chat link below, or ask to be let in, always at 8 p.m. And we do start at 8 p.m. That's it, Tony. Does that help?
Well, it did, and I will take a look on Facebook, although I'm probably not going to go in the computer room tonight. And I will see what I can find, and if I can't join in, I will harass you for assistance. NT5TM, thank you.
Well, Tony, we would love to have you, and anyone else who wants to join us at 8 o'clock on Friday nights. It's a ritual and has been now for about, 2, 3, 4 years, something like that. Maybe longer, I don't know. Okay, next up is Sean, KB9SOK. Sean, your thoughts on characterization. You must have found something really good about our characters, or not. Please, go ahead, from KE5ICX.
This is KB9SOK. It's it's going to be tough to find much positive about these characters. Wow. As everybody says, it's hard to tell them apart. And to be honest with you, I really don't remember any of their names, which is absolutely. I don't know if I've ever watched a movie where I didn't remember anybody's name. We got the. I guess I'm not even really sure who the main character was in this movie. We've got the guy that apparently owned the company that was involved in the drilling, and then we had his ex-wife that he meets back up again. Clearly wanted to get back with her, and then once again I just know it as his girlfriend. Then we got which was supposed to be our technical person. The girl got her leg crushed. So I guess her name is Girl with Crushed Leg. Then we had the two girls in the spacecraft, and then the brother. And then, of course, the very poorly dressed, stereotypical general. The only thing I will say, this might be the first general that we've seen that didn't want to nuke things right off the bat. He was trying to actually stop them from nuking it. So there you go. There's a twist. He just didn't look like a real general. Oh, man. Yeah, these characters were rough. And the acting was pretty rough, too, to be quite honest. I found the main guy that, the guy with the girl, I thought him almost creepy, to be honest. There's just something about him that just felt creepy. I just didn't care for him. I'd been okay if he had not made it. Then obviously the ex-wife or girlfriend, and as you mentioned earlier about that telescope, she could, we had a cheap telescope that she could look through, and it magically could tell her everything. She could look through it, she could see the spaceship, she could tell, looking through it, and within a half a second, she could tell you, oh yeah, those meteors are going to hit San Francisco in exactly 4 minutes. The thing was like a magical device. So yeah, there were parts of it that were almost comical, but not intentionally. That's the direction they should have tried to go on with this. They should have tried to make it one of those classic, over-the-top comedies and actually truly make fun of these kind of films instead of trying to make an actual serious movie with complete babble. I wouldn't trust any of these people with my life or protecting Earth. So, now not a lot to say about characters here. I'm not really sure who would get even best character in this one. I don't know, maybe the Moon. I guess you could say maybe this movie was really just about warning us about the dangers of drilling on the Moon that we shouldn't do it because this could happen. Maybe that's what it was about. Anyway, sorry, I don't really have anything good for this round. Back to net. KB9 is okay.
Oh, Sean, I think you are absolutely correct. There was nothing redeemable. Our characters were interchangeable nothings, and nobody liked them, and nobody cared. And the only person that we can single out is the frumpy general. Everybody else is sort of, who knows. Okay, next up is Bill, W5BLT. Bill always has something great to say about our actors, some insight, something we missed, something that the average human would not necessarily notice. But Bill, being above average, can tell us about these characters and elevate them to the appropriate level they need to be at. Did I get that right, Bill, from KE5ICX?
Well, that's a lot of pressure. I think I'm good on my audio now. I realized I have my headphones plugged in, and I think that somehow that dims the audio. But, well, we had Jeremy London with, I think, the General Madden. I guess Tyler Christopher played Steve Sawyer. We had another guy playing Logan Sawyer. I can't remember which one was on Earth and which was in space. I just know that they were going to have hamburgers, and that was the only redeeming thing about the characters. They were going to grill hamburgers after saving the Earth, so I thought that was pretty cool. We had Amanda, I guess, which I think was his sister. I don't know. Was there Carrie? Something else? I'm getting confused because there's other characters. Dominic, Bobby, Christine, Dave, Kyle, I think Dominique, Lieutenant was in there. Oh, I'm tired. Madam Secretary. And anyway, I think that's some of those characters. And of course, we have the meteor thing heading towards Earth and the moon. And you know, my favorite character was the meteor, but unfortunately, just like the rest of the characters, it didn't really do its job and do it well. It kind of fell flat and didn't end up destroying the Earth. You know, it was really hard to like any of these people. I felt like it just picked up kind of in the action part, and then it sort of drug, but there was really, you know, drug on, but there's really no backstory about these characters. I really couldn't feel anything for them, and I really didn't care. Normally I care about the characters, and, you know, you want them to live and things like that, and by the way, I thought that the one interesting thing is, particularly as a blind guy, I thought the interesting thing of, you know, covering your eyes so that the light wouldn't blind you when they were trying to destroy the meteor. I thought that was pretty humorous. And I don't wish blindness on anybody, but again, these characters, I just didn't care. I don't know that the actors necessarily did a bad job. They worked with what they had, which wasn't much. But yeah, there was a whole bunch of characters in here, and I just realized as I'm looking through this, there's kind of too many. The storylines, it just was hard to keep up with, and you know, usually you have one or two main characters, and everybody else kind of pivots around them. I mean, I think Star Wars did a good job of having multiple characters and backgrounds, you know, that you could follow, but it had time to build that. So, anyway, not a whole lot to say about these characters, except there was a lot of them. W5BLT.
Yeah, I agree with you, Bill. And if you're going to have, like, ancillary characters, like Governor Tarkin, wouldn't he be great giving you your driving test, you know? Oh, well, let's see here. Let's see. Next is... Oh, and thank you, by the way. You did elevate the characters. Going to go have burgers, the two brothers. That's fantastic. So you fulfilled your mission, and expectations were met. Chris, K0FER. Chris, hopefully your signal is, I think, a little better. What did you think about characterization, the acting, that jazz from our movie, Moon Crash from 2022.
Is my signal any better?
Immensely. Whatever you did improved it considerably. Go ahead.
I've got a bad QRM problem. Yeah, there's very little redeemable about this. The actors did what they could, but did no one just think to question and stand up and say, hey, this makes no sense? Like, I refuse to believe that everybody on that set did not have at least a high school education. Did not go to one physics class in, like, I know the acting curriculum at most fine arts institutions does not require a lot of science, but still, something, please. So I was very disappointed in them. I'm disappointed in everyone on the set. Like, a gaffer, an electrician on the set should have been able to stop some stuff. But, I don't know, maybe they don't hire you anyway, but K0FER.
Thank you, Chris. I'm going to give an answer to this question, and I'm not sure if it applies in this case or not, but I write for a website, and I know that two people, one of the people that runs it, and they are actually able to pay the bills with this website. The thing is, though, is that it is a writer's paradise or a writer's dirge, because you have to, in order to make a lot of money, well, that's a misnomer. You're not going to make a lot of money, but make enough money, or to make some money, you have to do a lot of writing. And these two people together write on average probably at least 5 to 10 articles a day themselves. Now, I will tell you those articles are not going to be very good, and they're grammatically have problems a lot of times because they're just churning these things out over and over and over again. But they're able to make some money at it. So I'm going to say that potentially what is happening here is they put a movie out, they do it very quickly, they move on to the next movie, and then they make the money off of sheer numbers. Asylum Films makes a lot of films in the course of the year. So people are watching them. We watched them. Now, it started out pretty good. It looked like it'd be interesting, but somehow or another, we managed to see some of it. Now, those movies end up with, eyes. In this case, I don't think any of these, well, maybe Netflix possibly, so Netflix may have paid them to run it on their site before the ads. All the others are free streaming sites. They get paid for the eyes, for the ads. So they're fulfilling their mission, even if it's just one round where they see the first runs to the first ad. The same ads run over and over again anyway. So you see it once, you've seen them all over and over again. So if you stick with it, you see those multiple hits, which is exactly like the web pages. There's money in that. So it doesn't have to be good. It just has to be numerous, I think. That's just a guess on my part. All right, next up is Virginia, NV5F. Virginia, your thoughts on characterization and acting. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Tom. I am, feeling a little punchy. Not because of anything on this net, but maybe I'll go into that later. So this should be good. You know, I could tell the characters apart. I really didn't have any trouble with that. They actually made it visually not very hard. The two brothers looked quite different. One was on Earth, one was in space. One chick was Asian, the other had a Russian accent and was blonde. There was a red-haired girl on Earth. There was a dark-haired lady who was the astronomer who ran the telescope. And then the general, I really didn't have any trouble telling the characters apart. Now, I couldn't tell you all their names at this point. I thought they had pretty distinct personalities. Red-haired girls are always sort of cheery and chipper no matter how bad their legs get crushed. Tilly was my favorite character on the one season of Star Trek Discovery that I could actually stand to watch. So I didn't have trouble with the characters themselves. It was very stereotypical. You've got the one brother who's kind of, the crazy one, and the other one feels responsible, and they're kind of forcing some of that sort of thing. The cool, smart chicks in tank tops and that kind of stuff. But they seemed okay if they'd had a better story with, about 25 fewer reversals and about 95% less technobabble. I think of the movie Real Genius, which we watched not too long ago, and it's full of technobabble, but it's manageable. It's got a good storyline, and the technobabble kind of serves, the storyline and the characters. And, I thought this could have been okay, and I even liked the general, and maybe he could have, trimmed his beard a little bit and worn more up-to-date clothing. But I kind of liked, he was a likable sort of guy. He just seemed likable. Usually generals are jerks. And every admiral in Star Trek The Next Generation, except the Japanese one, is a jerk. I think he could have been pretty good. So yeah, I don't have a whole lot of problems with the characters. It's interesting what you were saying about the sheer volume idea. I was actually thinking about that. You were talking about National Republic Pictures, and you know, there's so much demand for entertainment, and people will, you know, it's so stratified now, and nobody worries about talking about anything they've watched. They just want stuff to watch, and there have always been companies that crank it out, and whether it's kids shows or these kind of movies, they'll imitate something and hope that, you know, enough people are dumb enough to think, oh, that's the Disney one, when really it's some crappy thing from, you know, Korea that copied Disney or whatever. So yeah, the sheer volume of what they produce gets them on, you know, gets them 1 million views on YouTube and gets them monetized and gets their stuff out there and gets actors stuff on resumes, and you never can tell when you might see some of these people somewhere else. And the writing thing that you mentioned, a friend of mine who has actually written a book about Star Trek wrote for a website like that. That's kind of a continuous rapid fire entertainment news type website, a more general site than the one you write for. But yeah, he used to, and then they had to, like, they got so oversaturated from publishing so much, and the algorithms changed, and they suddenly lost like half of their web traffic, and he actually ended up getting laid off. But he was writing like 20 stories a week, and you know, there are these 1,500 word stories, but yeah, you just lose. But that's just it's the same thing with movies. You just, yeah, you can make a buck, but the quality isn't there. And this day and age, you see the stuff on YouTube that people put out and that people are willing to watch, and it's not produced at all. It's just thrown together with some software, and people are just making long videos just to get more viewing time for no reason, just long. And at least this movie was short. That's one thing I'll give it. It was only an hour and a half. So anyway, I digress. But yeah, I wasn't really too put off by these characters. I thought that they were likable and could have used a better story in V5F.
Yeah, thank you, Virginia, and thanks for your comments. And there's a common thing here, internet, right? The internet allows the platform lots of eyes watching many different things at different times, some of the same things only at different times, and they're not going to say anything to anybody. You know, we're probably, I don't know, but I have a feeling that we're probably the only 5, 10 people watching a movie at the same time, that same movie, but it doesn't matter. They'll keep showing them and showing them and showing them. And the other thing, too, I like what you said, too, is that, you know, you take an idea and you run with it. Well, I was thinking about that, and I thought, you know, many of the stories, like I was thinking about the website that I write for, is that, and to individuals, they'll just take a single comment somebody made, a single comment that they made, and then try and write an entire article around it, or an opinion piece. Most of them are opinion pieces because there's no research involved, and then shove it out there, which is okay. I mean, it's a point of discussion with people and things like that, but it doesn't make for very good, I don't know what you call it, journalism or writing or whatever. It's just a way of getting something out the door. And I think the rest of these things would just kind of play into that. Okay, next up is Brenda, WB5OZL. Brenda, your thoughts on characterization and acting from KE5ICX.
Thank you. This is WB5OZL. Well, I just didn't find I think it was a matter of poor writing is one reason why the characters weren't really good to stand out. There wasn't anybody there that was just real sympathetic to me. And I guess they were okay actors, although I don't think any of them ever acted again. Maybe this killed it. I don't know. Well, that's only been a couple of years. But, they just had such a weak script to work with. It's kind of sad because they might be good actors. We don't know. The characters just weren't strong enough to me, and the story was not very strong. It was kind of dumb. Another meteor hits Earth story, and I think those are cliched and overworked, and we just did not need another one. The girls in tank tops, I thought that was kind of provocative. I don't know who gets to wear a tank top to work. We don't, where I work. I think that was just gratuitous, frankly. And the general frumpy clothes, that wasn't good. I feel like somebody went to a lot of effort to write the script to start with, but then I had the sense that the filming of the movie was maybe rushed, maybe the post work was maybe rushed. It almost seemed like they didn't put a lot of care into it when it was over, once the filming was done. I think they just wanted to get it out the door. And I just had that sense about it. So, no, I would not watch this again. It wasn't bad enough to be fun. It's bad enough to be boring. So, all right, that's all I'm going to say. WB50ZL, back to now.
Okay, thank you, Brenda. Let's see. Well, let me throw this out to Aaron, KE5IKY. Aaron, if you're still there, I have to ask you, you didn't see the film, but would you want to, at this point, would you want to see this film, or would you rather watch Meteor with Sean Connery? Okay, he may have taken off for the evening. I can fully understand that as we reach the bewitching midnight hour. Okay, well, we've got 12 minutes. I think we can get through the special effects, so we'll start at the top. Tony, NT5TM, your thoughts on special effects? Oh, I forgot to mention, my part, as far as the acting, I don't have anything to add. The frumpy, my favorite was the frumpy general. That's it. I just never figured that out. He was a sympathetic character. He wasn't the jerk that they are on Star Trek, but, anyway. Okay, Tony, NT5TM, your thoughts on special effects?
I can summarize that quickly. Cheap CGI, not special. NT5TM. Have a great night, everybody.
That was easy. Thanks, Tony. And KV9SOK, Sean, special effects. Go ahead.
KV9SOK. Yeah, they're definitely cheap. They're no better than just what you could see on some YouTube channels that was talked about earlier. I do like the concept everybody was saying that you kicked off, Tom, about just rushing stuff out to make a quick buck, and I had thought about that line of thought on that, and that's probably exactly what they were doing, just trying to make a quick buck. So, yeah, I guess lesson learned on watching movies made by them. Special effects weren't great. They obviously, already mentioned the helmets that clearly weren't sealed, and we had the space suits that were made out of football gear. Clearly nothing was sealable. The spaceship that had, normal Earth gravity with no explanation why. Well, we could go on for hours, I guess. So I guess I won't. There's I don't even remember if there was even any music. There might have been. As we talk about from week to week to the audio, I didn't notice any major audio issues, so I guess kudos to them on that part. They spent some money there. Yeah, oh well, it's always entertaining. Looking forward to next week. Back to net, KB9S, okay.
Very good, thank you, Sean. Yeah, audio was pretty good. The music was not very good. It was repetitious. W5BLT. Bill, your comment. Go ahead.
Well, I do have a complaint on the audio, actually. On the audio. And maybe I'm just a stickler for this, but the walkie-talkies to me sounded kind of weak. Now, keep in mind I have a hearing impairment, too, to go with my visual impairment now. And so I cranked up the hearing like a walkie-talkie, and then the sound effects were over that. So it was a little hard when they did that part of it to hear what they were saying. But then there was another scene where they were talking, I think, in their spacesuits, and you could hear them just fine. So it was just kind of weird, like some of the walkie-talkies they had just sounded like things that I would do when I was a little kid to imitate a walkie-talkie and cut my hand over my mouth. But no, the rest of the audio was good. You could understand it. But that was the only thing I had on the audio was with, I think, either the walkie-talkies or I don't know if it was the spacesuit or wherever at the beginning when they were talking before the meteor dislodged from the moon. I just thought that part was interesting because sometimes you'll have this audio from the radio and then the explosions and everything around you are way out of balance with that helmet audio or walkie-talkie audio. But anyway, that was really all I had. W5BLT.
All right, thank you, Bill. Next up is Chris, K0FER. Your thoughts on special effects or any parting comments? Go ahead.
I'm glad somebody mentioned the music. Yeah, it was pretty mediocre. But so I hop on IMDb as like, who wrote this guy? And started digging through and had music by and two people. I looked at their bio, and they're from Charleston State University. I scroll down, and then there's a thing called Music Department. And lo and behold, there's a guy there that I know personally that went to Charleston State University, and I'm wondering if he's the same guy, and if he is, I'm going to give him grief. Oh, boy. So thank you for leading me down that rabbit hole. A0FER.
Thank you, Chris. I would guarantee it's the same guy. There's a film called Flesh Gordon. Yes, it's sort of borderline pornography, Flash Gordon, which I was curious about, and I got about 10 minutes into it and said, I can't watch this. It's unwatchable. But in the credits, the makeup job was done by B. Joe Trumbull, who anybody who's a Star Trek fan knows B. Joe as the gal who helped save Star Trek in 1968, and it is the same person. So, yeah, people show up every once in a while. Next up, Virginia, NV5F, Virginia. Your final comments and your thoughts on special effects or anything else? Go ahead, from KE5ICX.
Well, as Tony said, the special effects, not so special, but special effects are dead. Everybody can do anything they want with computers. And there's nothing. I don't know. I'm just going to watch 2010 over and over again because I still watch that movie and go, how did they do that? There's some good stuff in there. So yeah, it's just a bunch of my favorite. The worst effect of all was my favorite little scene where all the little satellites like come and like magnetically stick to the ship, and it's just the cutest thing ever. So I'm going to say that was the most special effect because it was so cheesy but somehow heartwarming. So that's going to be my vote for best special effect. Coolest costume. The general costume notwithstanding were probably the Yuri Gagarin space helmets that they stole from the Russians. Those were pretty great. I would swear that was just library music, which it probably was, but they probably still had to credit whoever wrote it. But it just sounded like, action movie library music that none of it specifically went with anything that was going on. It just sort of suited the mood of the mood they wanted to elicit in whatever scene. Very common in these kind of movies. Yeah, the internet has basically killed creativity. I've just spent a couple hours on a website where you upload designs and you try to somehow think that your designs are going to be standing out more than other people's designs, and hope that you might sell a few t-shirts or mugs or whatever and get your work out there. But then you start to realize that the only way anyone's going to see your work is if you hustle, social network, and basically kiss all the right digital butts to get to make money in drips and drabs. And it's all volume. Don't worry about quality. Just get out there and, just put a bunch of dreck out there and get the volume and make sure people see it and buy it before they buy other people's dreck. And I refuse to publish dreck, and I've just about had it. I spent 2 hours on a website and I can't figure out how to get any of my stuff actually published. The website's convoluted and crazy, and then as soon as I got frustrated with that, I got an email from another website that I spent several hours on last night going, "You've been on our website, why haven't you published any of your designs?" And I was like, well, I thought I had. I spent hours on there putting up designs, and apparently none of them got published, and so I took their survey and wrote them a big, soapboxy response. We'll see what they say, but anyway, I'm about done with all of it. So anyway, that's it. Off my soapbox, and I won't say any more lest I make this last too much longer. Elvis is about to leave the building. NV50.
All right, thank you, Virginia. Yeah, well, I understand what you're going through. Never mind, I won't get on my soapbox about my own travails and all of that. I will say one thing that's interesting, and this is just a sidelight, because I don't know if I've ever mentioned it before, but I discovered that, I think it was CBS. CBS used to do a lot of library music, and they would save it. So if they did an old thriller show or whatever was on CBS, internally produced, they would go and record that music. They'd actually put it on like a 33 1/3 RPM record. And then anybody who was producing for CBS would pull from that library music. And there would be, and they would, literally they could order the music, and they would send the record or whatever it was, and then they would insert it into their own production, royalty-free or at a minimal cost. And what's interesting about it is that as a soundtrack fiend that I am, I love that stuff because there are early pieces by John Williams, Jerry Goldsmith, Fred Steiner, other people from earlier television that this stuff is original recordings, and they've been pick labels like any rate Entrada Records, I think, is one that put out specialty soundtracks, and they've been able to find and source all this stuff from the old CBS collection. So the music does show up And it's entirely possible that's where all that came from. Next up is Brenda, WB50ZL. Brenda, your final comments. Go ahead.
Elvis has left the building.
This is WB50ZL. I don't have too much to add. It's been a pretty long net, surprisingly so, for a movie that nobody liked. Special effects, and, anybody who uses special effects these days, was nothing original there at all. And one thing that confused me was why the observatory was there, and why it was on fire, and why, what was the significance of all that? Why did they keep going there? I didn't get that part. So much of it was, bewildering to me. Why did they do that? What did they say that? And, so anyway, all right, I'm going to stop there. WB50ZL.
Okay, that's fine. My comment's short. I've got nothing else to add. Special effects were mediocre, but what do you expect? Music, mediocre. Although I thought sound was okay, but I agree with Bill. There was some fuzziness to it, but my sound system sometimes has that fuzziness when it tries to decode channels that don't exist. I've got a 7.2 system. A lot of times it's 5.1, and mine doesn't decode properly sometimes. So I always blame the sound system on that. Okay, next week's movie is also from 2022. It's another one of these specialty houses. Before you put facepalm up, this one is called Quantum Cowboys. It is a Western animation sci-fi flick. It's an hour and a half long. I watched a little bit of it. It is bizarre, so if you've got your own stash of peyote, you may want to bring it out for this particular film. So that's it from me, and thank you, everyone. I thought this was a pretty darn good net. I sometimes wonder how the heck we managed to make this happen. Because in the end, some of these films aren't worth really the discussions that we have, but we do anyway, and they're quite illuminating and interesting. So next week, on Tubi, Quantum Cowboys from 2022. See y'all. I'll send the info out tomorrow morning. This is KE5ICX. I'm clear. Have a good evening. Bye.